I don't think the system is racist.
Let's talk PragerU and defunding the police. PragerU is an internet cesspit designed to spread far-right propaganda in a marketable way. Well, that wasn't particularly charitable. Okay, I'll try again. Dennis Prager might be watching. PragerU is bad, and they should feel bad. Yeah, that seems more right. PragerU is an online content creation aggregator designed to spread right-wing talking points and values in short, bite-sized clips. It's funded by two fracking billionaires, Dan and Farris Wilks, so it's not difficult to see why they come up with such great points, like...
You see, God cannot be the God of justice and social justice because social justice is not just.
You're not radical if you want America to be what it's always been, committed to individual liberty.
Bruh, 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 bruh.
But this story of the two parties switching identities is a myth.
The environmentalists say the best way, the only way, is through massive federal and even international regulations. Conservatives say the best way to protect the environment is by protecting property rights and encouraging innovation.
I know. Bastions of free thought. But today, we aren't talking about those videos. We're going to look at this one. Should we defund the police? A fun little walk around Los Angeles with Will Witt and Brandon Tatum. Two right-wing talking heads very familiar with the PragerU style. We're going to go point by point in this awful excuse for propaganda and tear it to shreds. The first thing you'll notice while watching the video is that neither Witt nor Tatum are wearing masks, even though everyone they talk to is, and they're walking around LA, one of the most populated cities in the world, and also in the middle of a pandemic that's killed millions of people. But, I mean, you didn't really expect them to, did you? On with the video. The first 2 minutes are some relatively inconsequential questions from Witt to our four unfortunate LA strollers, culminating in, what would you ask a cop if he was here in front of you right now? What a gotcha, because we've got a cop right here, because Brandon, he was a police officer. Yeah, bet you didn't see that coming. Out here, Mr. Stranger on the street. Now that we've got to the actual meat of the video, outside of the 2 minutes of PragerU trying to make the average LA resident look uninformed, let's get to the points.
There's no law on the books that's against black people, right? I mean, do you know of any laws that says this is a law for black people and then everybody else don't have to abide by that? And therefore, there's no laws for police officers to enforce that are racist.
Point one, the system isn't racist because the laws aren't explicitly racist. Brandon is, of course, completely correct. Laws are no longer allowed to be written in a way that is explicitly discriminatory to minority groups. Unfortunately, Brandon is also completely incorrect. Laws can and are applied to different people differently, and this comes out poorly for people of colour all the time. A study out of the University of Kansas showed that police stopped African American males twice as often as white males. New York City police stopped black and Hispanic people at rates far higher than that for white people. And 3 times as many black and Hispanic drivers had their cars searched for drugs after being stopped. White drivers are also ticketed less than black drivers. Wow, it's almost as if bias exists. Wow.
I think that the rhetoric that's on the TV is that somehow being black is a I don't know, you're automatically getting targeted by police, and that's just not necessarily true.
Point 2, the TV rhetoric about police and violence is wrong. Okay, we're going to put a pin in that one. Come back to it later.
When you look at the numbers, white people get killed twice as much as black people by police, even unarmed individuals. There's twice as many white people and sometimes 3 times as many white people who are shot unarmed by police than black people.
Point 3, white people are killed by police at twice the rate that black people are, even accounting for their status as unarmed. Well, darn it, Brandon. You sure do got me here. You know, it really does look like more white people are shot and killed every year by police than black people. Oh, it sure would suck if you could, say, point out that African American people constitute a total of 14% of the total US population, meaning that the rate of fatal police shootings in the last 5 years per million of the population for black people was almost 3 times as high as it is for white Americans. Oh, gosh darn it, that sure would be terrible, if it were to disprove you like that, using very easily found and verifiable statistics. It's almost like you've got an ulterior motive at play here, Brandon.
I was never trained at any point during our training to be racist, and nobody was trained to be racist. Actually, we were trained to treat people equal, treat people fairly. And that's how you become a adequate police officer.
Point 4. Police are trained as officers to treat people equally. Once again, it seems like Brandon has got me here. I can't find any information of police officers being trained in a way that makes them more biased towards African Americans. But what I did find was a bunch of studies showing that police officers show a higher level of implicit bias towards African Americans, making them far more likely to make the decision to shoot a black American than one of another race. That would be this study, showing that officers were quicker to shoot armed black targets than they were to indicate don't shoot like they were for other races. This study showing that the more prototypical a person seems, the more the racial bias increases. This study showing officers either moderately or strongly associate black Americans with weapons and that poor sleep causes officers to shoot more. And this study showing that officers outperformed the community control group on overall speed and accuracy when it came to deciding whether to shoot black and white targets. They also showed a robust racial bias. It's almost as if focusing what is presented in the training and not how the training affects the officers has caused Brandon to miss the bigger picture here. Oh well, I'm sure that he'll watch this video and get the right message.
I've never met a racist police officer. Now, I think that they're out there for sure, but I've never met a racist police officer.
Point 5. Brandon has never met a racist police officer. Considering he was a Tucson police officer until 2017, I find that hard to believe. In the year 2011, the hacker group Anonymous released thousands of emails and documents sent by Tucson police officers, including racist chainmail claiming, amongst other things, that Barack Obama, the current president at the time, wasn't an American citizen and was committing welfare and social security fraud at the time, decries the international response against the Iraq War with some choice phrases, and contains emails from a school cop to the Arizona Attorney General where he claims that indoctrination is taking place because they're teaching about the Native American genocide. Brandon might have gone his entire stint as a Tucson police officer without a cop saying something racist to his face, but there is no chance that he doesn't know a racist cop.
If you treat people with respect, you'll get respect in return.
Point 6. If you respect people, i.e. the police, you'll get respect in return. Now, I know Brandon is shitting with us here, but he clearly doesn't watch the news, where you can see video after video of journalists, protesters, and, old men getting beaten and mauled by cops. Here is a fun video of that. Thank you to Some More News for collating this. This video is not fun. This is a content warning for police violence. Please go to this timestamp to miss this.
They're not moving. Oh, they got shot. There we go. Heather, you. These are cops! Destroying everything! You're gonna take the materials of our struggle peacefully out there! Get your fucking knee off his neck! Get your fucking knee off his neck! He has his knee on his neck!
Don't let Brandon fool you, buddy. He doesn't know what he's talking about.
Black people were shot unarmed in LA in 2019. Do you know that number?
Yeah, like 100, 150.
Maybe the hundreds, but
Like 500 to
1,000?
like,
You know, it's
1,000 unarmed? Well, it's only been one.
Damn.
Unarmed black person shot in LA has been one. I don't think they had any this year. And there were 4 white men killed unarmed by police.
Point 7. Ooh, we got you, we got you. Only 1 unarmed black person was shot and killed in LA last year, as opposed to 4 white people. Ooh! I mean, we've already covered this, haven't we? We know that 1, the number of African Americans shot by police per million people is almost 3 times that for white people. But now he's doubling down and getting specific. Unarmed people shot in LA. Well, first, I can only find evidence for 1 unarmed black person shot in LA by police. But before I zoom out for a second, I want to talk about why Brandon doesn't mention this person's name. Because it would not help his point, to put it lightly. On the evening of the 6th of June, 2 LAPD officers drove up to an apartment complex in South LA and approached a parked Kia, inside of which was Ryan Twyman, an unarmed man. The officers approached with their weapons drawn on either side of the vehicle, and as one of them attempted to open the door, the car appeared to reverse. The officers opened fire on the vehicle and continued to do so until the vehicle stopped moving. One officer then returned to the police cruiser, took out a larger rifle, and continued firing at the now unmoving car. Within 30 seconds, 2 officers shot at 1 unarmed black man 34 times, and he died at the scene. That is police brutality, and there's a reason Brandon doesn't bring it up. A murder perpetrated by 2 men who will not face justice, and whose crimes are downplayed constantly in the media and by people like Brandon. Now that I've mentioned him, let's get back to his point. Brandon is being very specific with his language here. Unarmed people shot in LA. He's being so specific because if he branches out, you'll notice that the overall trend, again, does not support his point. The number of unarmed individuals shot by police seems to be low across the board. 43 by the Guardian's count from 2013 to 2019, which also presents an issue with how police and media categorize someone as unarmed. Tamir Rice was shot because he was holding a toy gun. Police thought he was an armed black man. Is he classified as armed for these stats? Even then, black people are shot 1.3 times more than white people when unarmed. But what if we push out a little? Take the numbers at face value. Instead of just looking at LA, let's look at police shootings in America. Oh wait, we already know this answer. Black people are 3 times as likely to be shot by police. How many times do I have to say that? The crimes for which these people are shot are not capital crimes, by any stretch of the imagination, even if they are armed. And yet, 8 out of the 100 largest police departments in the United States kill African American men higher than the United States murder rate. Yeah, let that one sink in. Now, if you remove the word shot from Brandon's sentence and push out to unarmed black men killed by police, you suddenly find that 2019 had 25 unarmed black men either shot, beaten, tasered, or killed with a vehicle by police. Police violence in these situations affects everyone. No one deserves to be summarily executed for their crimes, but African Americans are affected at massively higher rates than whites. And Brandon is pushing this narrative because it suits him to. He is a former police officer, and since 2016, he has been working for the conservative media machine to push these kinds of narratives. A harmful pro-police, pro-authority, anti-person message that police violence and police brutality are not issues, and they are overblown, and he has one group to blame.
It changed kind of the narrative of what you see on television. Black people aren't getting killed and shot unarmed the way they are presenting it. It's just that when one does, it's all over the news.
Point 8. The media narrative around police shootings is overblown. Pulling out that pin from earlier, Brandon is once again overly specific, drilling right down on black men who are unarmed and are shot by police. And he blames the media for overblowing the shootings of black individuals into a crisis that the protesters can claim and fight for. Considering shooting is once again not the only way that black individuals are killed in the US, and as we've already covered, police violence is a major issue in the country, it's easy to see how disingenuous Brandon and PragerU are being. Now, I have my own problems with the media and how they cover various aspects of society. But the coverage of police shootings and police actions in general is nearly always pro-police. An ABC News report in 2019 framed the deaths of 4 police officers as a nationwide war on cops, and got the former Undersecretary of Homeland Security to come on the program and say that this forms a significant uptick in violence against law enforcement. The problem with this is that there is no data to support it. Both 2015 and 2017 were some of the safest years for US law enforcement, and whilst 2018 saw an uptick in on-duty deaths, 2019 reversed that and went back down again. And 2019 was the year that apparently showed a significant uptick in violence against law enforcement. Conservative academic Heather McDonald published a book entitled The War on Cops, an incredibly frequent media framing device, and is a frequent talk show host where she comes on, decries any mass movement that is against police or against overall authority. Fox News itself, the most watched cable network, is pro-cop propaganda, never trying to even come close to balance on the subject. I mean, and on many other issues, but we're focusing on this one today. The odd thing about this video is that neither Witt nor Tatum actually attempted to answer the question of should we defund the police? Like, it was the first question they asked of our 4 very unfortunate strollers, but they didn't have any snappy answers at that point. Any quips, any gotchas. They waited until much later on, when Brandon could talk about him being a police officer, with his very overly specific answers, and that's because they just don't care. They don't care about the issue of defunding the police. They're paid to spread this propaganda. That's what it is. It's pro-cop, pro-authority propaganda. It's designed to spread misinformation in a way that's very difficult to debunk. Like, all of Tatum's comments took a total of like 2.5 minutes to say, just shooting his mouth off, and it took me over 15 minutes to properly debunk him with stats. Only by having a more knowledgeable populace can we defeat this dumb-ass shit.
So don't just believe me. You can go do your research. And that's where I found this information, and it shocked me.
Yeah, you do that. Because the info is on my side, you asshole.